what I want to say is you'll make it. You can make it through this. But you can't do it alone, and you can't do it not listening to your own wisdom.
Hi, I'm Suara, and welcome to Akashic Records Unlocked, a summit to spread awareness and share insights about healing in the Akashic Records, to bring more happiness, abundance, and maybe even a little magic into our lives. Today, we're super excited to have Cheryl Harrell with us, speaking about the Akashic Records. Cheryl Harrell, MDiv and MSW, is an energetic healer, intuitive, and channel. Cheryl's life passion is being fully present with others and attuning to the leadings of spirit. Cheryl's work in the Akashic Records is informed by her previous roles as pastoral counselor, clinical social worker, and community educator, through which she has cultivated a depth and breadth of understanding and compassion. Having come home to the joy of being in the Akashic Records, she delights in reflecting to others the beauty and mystery of their soul. Welcome, Cheryl Harrell.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So first off, I'd love to hear each person's sort of description about the Akashic Records, because we always end up learning a little new piece to it. Please tell us, what are the Akashic Records?
Well, without getting too esoteric, the Akashic Records, I like to think of the Akashic Records as a stream of information and energy within the quantum field. I often liken it to a radio station that I'm dialing into to gain information. And of course, it's an energy of love and so much appreciation for us from our masters, teachers, and loved ones for being here. And just loads and loads of information. It's the record of all of our life's journey through many lifetimes.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And, I'd also like to address that or respond to that by acknowledging the time that we're in, because I think it's no coincidence that there's a lot of interest in the Akashic Records right now. Mm-hmm. We are in a time of transformation and raising consciousness, and the records can be a tremendous support to us, helping us to understand life and understand our soul's journey. So it's a wealth of information there for us to gather from.
Wonderful. Thanks for mentioning that. I personally felt called to put together this summit just for that reason, that it seems to be time that the Akashic Records is the information around it is becoming more well-known and more common and kind of entering more into the mainstream. And people just need to, they're hungry to have more information around it. This idea that it is a place where all these decisions and lifetimes exist and that we have access to. I think people are starting to know about the Akashic Records, but being able to make that connection of how can I find healing here? How do I use this information? How do I connect to it? There's so many questions still out there about it. So I'm super grateful and happy that you're here with us right now talking about it.
Thank you. Well, we're really being invited to become to bring our soul into our body and to be embodied spirits. We often think of it the other way around, but really it's about being embodied, the divine as being in our bodies. Mm-hmm. And we don't, those are kind of strange bedfellows sometimes, we think, because we've been so much of our history is being in denial of the body, and yet it is the sacred vessel that the divine walks around in, and we are divine, and that's part of what we're waking up to.
Yeah, beautiful. That was really beautifully said. The idea of the soul, for so long it's been such a mystery, but this idea of embodied soul really is about bringing those two things closer together, that they exist simultaneously. And they speak to each other, and that now we have, with the support of the Akashic records, we get to tune in more into that communication, So that's wonderful. That's beautiful. I love that, the way that you said that. Um, so I'd love to know more about how you found the records, how you eventually became a healer and teacher yourself. Will you tell us more about your journey?
Sure. Well, I always say I had my first mystical experience when I was 3, feeling surrounded by love. And I grew up in a Christian church. I was always drawn to looking at the teachings and drawn to the mystical tradition of that tradition, and went on to study other paths of healing and spirituality, altered state experiences. And I kind of fell into the Akashic records by accident. My partner decided she wanted to go to a workshop, and she's talking about it, and I'm hearing in my head, go with her. And I'm going, oh, I'm supposed to go to support her, right? And so, of course, I did. It's kind of like the best way to get a mule in the barn is to turn it around and back it in. And so I kind of feel like that's how I found the records, is sort of backwards. I thought I was supporting her. And in fact, when I, went to the workshop and I opened my records for the first time, it was like going home. I had been in this place. I knew this energy. I knew the voices. I knew the love and the reassurance that was there, because I had entered unknowingly through other methods, not through prayer. Well, maybe through prayer, but other methods. But I didn't know where I was. And I finally recognized, I know this place. I know this energy. And I had been looking for a way to go deeper in my own path, and also a way to go deeper with, serving others. And so once I found the records, it was like no turning back. I began to close down my practice, my clinical practice, after many decades. Wow. And I thought, this is how I am to serve now. I had sat with people for many years, decades, as I said, in all kinds of struggle and strife. And I myself went through addiction and overcame addiction and trauma, complex trauma, and depressed. I was depressed for a long time. And I came out of that. And part of what lifted me out of that was learning how to really listen to my guidance. I mean, it guided me out of all of those dark places. And finding the records when I did, it sort of all clicked in a way. And it was very clear, this is what I'm to do for the rest of my life, I think. Maybe. Who knows what spirit has up its sleeve. But it's how I'm serving now. And I just delight in sitting in the energy of the records and supporting people in this way.
Yeah, beautiful. You spoke a little bit about other practices and things that you've learned along the way before finding the records. What are some of those things? Will you tell us?
Well, I studied Marielle, which is a healing technique that was developed in the 1980s by the late Ethel Lombardi. She was one of the Usui Reiki lineage. I have also studied Reiki, shamanism, toning. I'm thinking about all the energy things, toning. So there are a number of things, but those are the 3 major sort of healing modalities that I've done, is the Marielle, Reiki, and the shamanism.
Nice. And then how does that work in conjunction, those other modalities in conjunction with the Akashic records?
They dovetail. Well, I sort of think of those things as resources that I pull upon to hold the container of sitting with someone, especially, since the fall, especially, I've been led to work more with people energetically. And so I'm pulling on a number of these things. I'm just listening to the guides, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll do this now. I mean, I have sort of a process that I lead people through, but I'm sort of weaving all of those together, and they're working well. I'm not sure what to call them. I call it the no name method of energy working in the records. But I sort of am just listening to the guides and pulling from the experiences that I've had and from the trainings that I've had, to hold the space, to hold the integrity of the space for them, and really to allow people to move their own energy. Because it's really, they're the ones who are actually doing it. I'm more or less holding the space and guiding them.
Right, the support. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I'm so curious about how the modalities work. I mean, it sounds to me that you have all these skills and talents and many methods you've learned along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That in the records, you're really getting guidance from the record keepers and guides, like what to pull on for the
Absolutely.
for your client. And I guess from a records perspective, how do they view these other modalities, like with the records? Is it something that's harmonious? Is it something that it all exists there? What's the view?
I've not ever asked them that question. I should go in the records and ask them, because I'm sure that they would bring forth a really good answer. But I think it's like it all exists in the records. I think we kind of swim in the records, frankly. And it's all there. And it's all about, for me, it's all about discovering who we really are and stepping into that true self and really getting that we're creator beings, and freeing ourselves up to become who we were truly meant to be. Now, a lot of things can happen along the way, of course, trauma, addiction, depression, those are pretty big boulders in the path sometimes. And yet they too are tremendous gifts. This is what I've learned in this process of sitting with people for so long, and also through my own history. It's like they have helped me and helped clients to become the people that they are. And they're, in a sense, a lot of people talk about karma, and like, oh, clean my karma up. And I always kind of laugh and say, well, that's actually yours to do. But it's actually karma. They're always telling me karma's not what we think it is. It's really our path to learning. And so it's so important to, after you go through all of the human sort of, I really don't want to experience this, and why me, and it's somebody else's fault, is actually to turn and bless it, because there are tremendous gifts there. And they really make us incredibly flexible and strong to actually be able to deal with the times that we're in.
Yeah, definitely. I love that reframe of seeing our trauma and seeing those boulders or whatever the karma is as a blessing, a gift, a place where we might find even extra special knowledge and wisdom, having experienced that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that they actually are points of beauty and not brokenness. That we can actually leverage and learn from them to further bring light to others, even in the world.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the purposes of going through, enduring and going through. But it's like you can't skip over the messiness of that. I mean, a lot of people want to do the spiritual bypass, and you can't really do that. But it is really important what you focus on as you go through that. I mean, I lived with anhedonia, which is the complete absence of pleasure, for about 2 years. and felt no connection to spirit. And I would get up every morning and say, look at the sunrise and say, this once gave me pleasure, it will again. You know, I cry when I think about that. You know, it was really hard and it was long. You know, it's like, when is this ever going to be done? And yet I knew that if I kept looking at what I was experiencing in the moment, that rather than affirming what I knew to be true, which was that joy lived in me, that I loved the world, that I loved my life, that pleasure was abundant. That if I didn't focus on that, I would sink. You know, and so I think that that's all to say that I think that you can't skip over the messiness of it, but it's also important to be very mindful, not get lost in it. It's not to gloss over, you know, how difficult things can be, especially now, you know, and I sort of feel like I was prepared for this time because I had a period of time when my whole life fell apart. You know, I didn't know who to trust. The people that I thought would support me were not there for me. You know, the structures in my life were falling apart. And I look and it's happening to so many people right now. And I guess what I want to say is you'll make it. You can make it through this. You know, but you can't do it alone and you can't do it not listening to your own wisdom.
Yeah.
I would say that, you know.
You know, this time, we have a lot more time on our hands, and a lot of people are being called forward to first look at, you know, am I living in my soul's purpose? What am I doing with my time and with my life? And having these quiet moments and getting in touch with something deeper. And the Akashic Records can be such a great resource, is right here to support people through this time. And I don't know, do you have anything that you can let us know about, you know, what is the perspective of the Akashic Records for this time? Why is the records like this situation really seems to be supporting this transformation even that we're all going through? Do you have any insight into that or perspective, or the Akashic Records perspective on that?
Well, I would just say, in my experience in the messages that have been coming through for me for the last 2 years, really, things have to fall apart. You know, if we're so committed, when we're so committed to thinking we're right, thinking our perspective is right, and thinking that we really understand, I think it's a way of shaking us up and saying, we really don't understand so much. And that it's not about living from the head. I mean, our culture, so many of our cultures, not all of our cultures, but most, you know, the developed world, you know, is busy, 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 busy. And, you know, just like this, boom, 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 boom. And there's no space to breathe and no space to notice. Just notice, like, and just be present with people, with yourself. And I think that it's taken, you know, they say this time was planned long ago, you know, it's time for us to wake up and claim who we really are, how we want to be, and the kind of world we want to live in. But we can't do that if we're taking our cue from the outside. We really can't. And, you know, it causes so much confusion. You know, I'm much clearer when I go in. You know, I get really wonky really fast, you know, if I'm looking to the outside and I'm looking at too much news, because I know that the news, it's all slanted. I don't care what the origin of that is, you know, it's all slanted and it's a particular story. And it's like, what do I know my story is? What do I know humanity's story is from a much broader perspective?
Beautiful. Thank you for that reminder of like going in and, you know, coming from a place within and trusting ourselves. So the Akashic Records can be such a big piece of that for people.
Absolutely.
You know, they're accessing this information, they're in alignment with a soul level, high level frequency. And, you know, what do you think is most effective for people when they go to this place and they connect with that? What do you do there? What can people find there to help them?
Well, I think that, you're going in when, why go into the records? Why go into the records? You go into the records, first of all, for the experience of being received, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because there is no judgment there. There's only compassion. There's understanding. We're the ones that created judgment. There is no judgment from spirit, and, just that experience of being received and seen is incredibly powerful and incredibly healing. I kind of say, we talk about we could talk about healing techniques or energy techniques, but really the records in and of themselves, to be present in that energy and to receive the kind of loving, clear knowing, and information can in and of itself be healing. No, you don't have to add anything to that for healing to happen. Now, people who are really stuck, we can talk about that. Some additional things can be helpful, but they're not necessary in the sense of what is present there in the records.
Yeah.
It's all there. And so I think that we go there to be seen, to feel the love there, and to gain the wisdom. And, it can be vast and really mind-blowing sometimes, the things that come through the records. And other times it can be very, I'm kind of a grounded gal. I like my information, wide and deep, but I also want it to be usable. And so when I go in for myself or I go in for another, I want things to come through that are usable, practical. Yeah. Like, how do I deal with this? How do I learn to meditate? I mean, a lot of people will come and say, I don't know how to meditate. What do the records think is a good way for me? And some really good information, simple information, but very helpful information can come through. So it can go wide and deep, and it can go very grounded and simple.
I love that, and I love the practical application, the practical guidance that we can receive. Do you have
Yes.
examples of maybe a case or a client or something? I don't want to share too much, but that
Sure.
that has someone that's healed, something that we can relate to.
So let me give you, I'll give you a couple of examples. One, first of all, we're talking about energy and energy work within the records, and there are some things that have sort of come through for me since the fall, as I've done my own sort of exploration of the records and come to develop a particular prayer to work with people to enter the records when someone is, really struggling and they have an area or a pattern that just doesn't want to move. Mm-hmm. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I want to say, just being in the records, like I've had people come in. I had a woman, I'm sharing this with her permission, come in, and she was really numb. 3 years after losing her husband. For those 3 years, it was like the love of her life, and she was devastated. And she was also pretty angry because he had betrayed her in a particular way. But she just felt like she was numb. She couldn't access her grief. And she came and we did a reading. The master teachers and loved ones brought through a lot of clarity about the relationship. And she found that after that, she was able to access her grief, to forgive her husband, her deceased husband, and really regain the gifts and the pleasures of that relationship. And then she could move on, in her life. It was really a beautiful example of how a reading can just break open certain things for people. And then there's this, I've sort of been, I call it the no, I have a no name technique of energy work in the records because I'm pulling, from so many different things. I'm not quite sure what you call it. It's just like, it's what I do. It's just the process that happens. I've sort of developed this. And as I said, it's with people who will kind of just like, I can't move this. I need some support with this. And so I had a person, this is pretty dramatic example. I've done a number of readings with her, and this particular reading I did with her was focused on her relationship to her body. And what came through were all of these messages that she had taken in, from her family and from society about, how her body. And what we did was we flipped those messages on their heads while in the records and asked for support from her guides to basically rewrite the script about her body, and which really shifted something for her. And she came back and she said, okay, now I want to heal myself. I want to cure myself of type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
And I went, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, sure. Okay. I'm going, okay, guys, So, I'm not a medical doctor. And I said, look, you absolutely have to work with a medical doctor around these medications. I don't know anything about, that. But we can work on the messages and the blocks and the patterns there. And we did several sessions. I think we did 4 sessions. And part of what she recognized, what came through, is she wasn't in her body. She'd never been in her body. And in the records, it makes me want to cry. She came into her body. Again, I feel like the midwife. I'm just telling her how to breathe, figuratively, and walking her through a process. I'm listening to the guides as we're in the records together. And she gets in her body, and through several sessions, she's off her meds with help with the doctor and the energy work that we did. She's off of her meds. She feels great. She's lost weight. She's changed her diet. She's lost weight. And, I'm sitting back and I'm going, wow, whatever this is really worked for her. Yeah. And, again, I feel like I'm just coaching her and listening and being in real and, tracking in a sense what's going on with her. But it was a pretty profound. Now she was ready. And I think I want to say, in terms of healing of any kind, whether it's in the records or elsewhere, happens because somebody's prepared and they're ready and they're willing to allow the change to happen. And that's what I think a lot of times, we have a resistance to, human beings. We don't like change. I don't like change. I had my knickers all in a twist just this week about that. It's like, it's just part of the territory. And what we have to do is learn how to relax and allow.
Yeah.
And then to stay in alignment, and she really did her work. I did my piece, she did her piece, and Spirit did the lion's share of it all. And, she is beginning to live her life from a very different place.
Oh, beautiful.
In relationship to her body.
Yeah, that's so. I think in both of those cases that you shared, like, this woman who'd been working on this issue for 3 years. And, during those 3 years, she's looked at this in so many different ways. Right?
Sure.
She's talked about it. She's journaled about it. Maybe she's gone to therapy. Maybe she's tried so many different things. But it's this immovable piece. And when you come to the records, I think the records are perfect for this kind of situation where it's a big piece. It's a huge boulder, but it's this immovable piece that in other places, you can't seem to shift it. But like you said, when you go there, you're ready, you're willing, and work with the guides and masters, and you are doing the work with them, that that can really shift in the Akashic records. And it could be,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I said, and it could be anything from an
Yes.
emotional, like you're saying, or on a physical body level. We're talking like on a cellular level, shifting things. That's incredible. On the mental level, beliefs that we've picked up. Um, that's incredible. It's just happening on so many levels to be really effective.
It is. And I think that, when we talked about the time that we're in, things are speeding up, and the ability to drop the baggage that we have, the beliefs that we have about ourselves and about the world, it's getting easier. And it's kind of like jump on board, because it's really, it's moving, and it's sort of like the energy is with us to finally break, the patterns that haven't served us, which is really what's on our plate right
Yeah.
now.
Yes. Yeah.
It's, let's break the patterns. Let's get rid of what doesn't serve us so that we can shine, so we can be happy, so we can do what we came here to do.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is the place, like even in the stories you shared, this is the place where some of the magic can happen, and it's time to do the real work that we're meant to do. Yeah.
It is, but it's also, it is work. And, but it's also, for me, been coming through so clearly and consistently is that the work to be done is allowing.
Mm.
It's like I burned myself. I had adrenal fatigue. I thought my value was in hard work, and I was proud of that. And man, at 50, I could outwork 20 and 30-year-olds.
Oh, right. Yes.
I can't do that anymore. And I don't take pride in that anymore. But, one time I really thought that was important. But our value doesn't lie in hard work. We have value. It is a given, and this process that we're in is not about working hard and making it happen. And, that's the old pattern. And this has been a hard one for me to learn personally. And I have to keep learning it about various things, but it really is about allowing. It's about, surrendering is not giving up. It is about recognizing where we really are and what it is we need, and that we will receive it if we loosen up and create a space to receive it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that reminder. And
Yeah.
that's wonderful. I see that we're coming up close to the end of our time. But before we go, I know that you came today with a very generous free gift. I'd love it if you could tell us more about that.
Sure. I sort of couldn't figure out quite what I wanted to do, but what I did ultimately was I did a channel piece on self-care, in turbulent times. And I kept figuring, how can I work this? Again, getting my knickers in a twist, we're all in this together, folks.
Right.
And it just flowed through. And I specifically asked for the attendees of this summit, what advice can you give us? What guidance can you give us? I never tell us what to do, but what guidance can you give us around self-care? And, it's really about, I hope you'll enjoy it. It's really about, tending the vessel and being gentle with ourselves and all of that. And a lot that's repeated, but they were very clear, like, simple is good and repeated is good. Coming to it afresh is good. That kind of thing. And also I'm offering for anybody who signs up, I'll be doing a drawing for a free Akashic Records reading.
Oh.
So I'll pull a name on the 1st, June 1st, I guess. This is going to be in May on June 1st, and I'll notify the person who won. So I look forward to meeting whoever that is.
Beautiful. That's such a generous offer. Thank you so much. And thank you for the free gift and also sharing your wisdom here at the summit.
Oh,
We're
thank you.
very grateful. I really have dropped into my heart even just talking with you. So thank you.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
and thank you to all of our listeners who are here today. We hope that you've enjoyed this conversation and that you found some pearls of wisdom here. We're still doing more of these interviews and unpacking a little bit more about the Akashic Records every day. Please check out the interviews and we will see you next time. Thank you.